Good. How did? The chairman's phone suddenly buzzed loudly, cutting Gino off mid-sentence. Hold on. Chairman Yu said, raising his hand to stop Gino. His eyes widened as he read the message on his phone. Something had actually surprised him. That didn't happen often. Gino tilted his head in confusion. You need to see this. What are you talking about? Gino asked. But his father didn't reply. Instead, Chairman Yu quickly grabbed a remote and turned on the massive TV hanging on the wall. Breaking news flashed across the screen with an urgent tone. The hunter who scored an S rank today used to be an E rank hunter working under the association. His name is Jin-Woo Sung. The reporter sounded super pumped, matching the energy of the crowd on screen. Jin-Hyo freaked out when he heard Jin-Woo's name. Whoa. Then the screen switched to a new image. Jin-Hyo noticed someone he knew super well, staring straight ahead with a stone-cold face. It was his boss, and he could tell the guy was super annoyed. Even though they'd worked together for a while, Jin-Hyo could easily pick up on his boss's mood, even when his expression gave nothing away. But here's the kicker, was this guy really an S rank? Jin-Hyo already knew Jin-Woo was amazing. But this was on a whole new level. He couldn't believe someone with so much power would still train in dungeons every single day. Working alongside Jin-Woo made Jin-Hyo feel super proud. Especially when the reporter kept saying his name over and over. Suddenly the TV turned off, and the boss's face disappeared. Jin-Hyo frowned. Continue, his dad said, reminding him to finish what he was saying. I'm sorry, father. Jin-Hyo started. Chairman Yu's face turned rigid. I couldn't change his mind, he said firmly. What was Hunter Sung's reason for turning down our offer? Chairman Yu asked sharply. Jin-Hyo hesitated, then glanced at his father nervously. Well, he told me he's starting his own guild, and he wants me to be the vice president. He paused, expecting his dad to yell or ignore him. But instead of getting angry or ignoring him, his dad looked shocked. Finally, Chairman Yu let out a loud laugh. This surprised Jin-Hyo because his dad was known for keeping a straight face no matter what. Why is he laughing? Jin-Hyo wondered, but he didn't dare ask. Instead, he looked away nervously. After a moment, Chairman Yu stopped laughing and asked, do you know why I want to form the Yujin Guild? Jin-Hyo shrugged. Is it because there's a lot of money in it? Chairman Yu shook his head firmly. No, he said. It's not just about money, it's about power. I already have more money than I need. Why would I risk messing with big guilds just for cash? So, it's not about the money? Jin-Hyo asked, confused. Chairman Yu set his pen down quietly, to protect us. Jin-Hyo's dad looked super serious, which made him gulp nervously. The power of hunters keeps growing stronger, he said. It's actually pretty common for these top hunters to hold just as much power as an entire country's military. Yu was talking about the strongest hunters in the world, called national rank hunters because they're so powerful. I've heard that in some smaller countries, hunters are already acting like kings, he said. But how long do you think laws will keep us safe from a situation like that? His dad's tone was serious, but for some reason Jin-Hyo felt a surge of happiness as he listened. Why was that? Oh, he'd said. Which included Jin-Hyo. That tiny word made him super excited because it showed his dad really cared about him. Chairman Yu kept going with a proud smile. I want to bring together hunters who are trustworthy people I can count on, not those just in it for money or connections. His little grin said he was happy about this plan. It looks like you already found someone like that. Jin-Hyo nodded quickly, his voice firm. Yes. It was hard to tell what his father meant by that. But one thing Jin-Hyo was sure of, he had made up his mind. Yo smiled faintly and said, all right. Huh? Jin-Hyo's head jerked up in surprise. You passed, Yo said simply. Jin-Hyo frowned, confused. Passed what? He'd been listening quietly the whole time. So this caught him off guard. Yo placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm leaving the Yojin Guild in your hands. Jin-Hyo's eyes widened in shock. Wait, really? You're ready to take on this big job? Yo said with a nod. Grow the Yojin Guild and make it strong. Chairman Yu stood tall, his voice booming with confidence. Jin-Hyo, you must gather strong hunters who you can truly trust, he declared. Jin-Hyo beamed with joy. This was the first time his dad had ever praised him. He bowed deeply, a huge smile spreading across his face. Thank you, father, he exclaimed. But then something unexpected happened. Jin-Hyo straightened up and said, I don't think I can do that. Chairman Yu's eyes widened in shock. What? He asked. clearly surprised. Everyone knew that Eugen Construction's wealth could support the new guild once it was formed. The guild was already chatting with some top-tier S-rank hunters. Eugen Guild was on track to become one of the biggest names in Korea. Jin-Woo definitely knew all about their plans. After all, becoming the guild master was his goal. But then why did Jin-Woo turn down the chance his dad offered? Did he get cold feet? The chairman tried hard not to show how disappointed and angry he was when he asked. For what reason? Jin-Woo quickly lifted his head and cheerfully told his dad, without even thinking. I'm joining the boss's guild. Meanwhile, Jin-Woo found himself surrounded by reporters, feeling totally confused. Why were they all around him instead of taking pictures of Min-sung Lee? He glanced over his shoulder to see if Min-sung was behind him, but only saw Yoon-ho and Jongin there. Just then, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and wondered why Gina was calling at such a busy time. As soon as he answered, her urgent voice came through the line. Jin-Woo, you're on TV. Of course he was. Just look at all those cameras around him. Every station was probably playing the same news. Jin-Woo had been stressed thinking Gina was calling about something that happened at school, but he felt better when it wasn't. So, what's up? He asked casually. But Gina wasn't calm. What do you mean? What's up? You've come back to life, and you're in S rank now. Jin-Woo could tell she was super excited, or maybe even freaking out, but he didn't have time to talk right then. I'm kinda busy, Jin-Woo said quickly, trying to wrap things up. We'll catch up when I get home. But Gina wasn't ready to let him go. Wait, Jin-Woo, she pleaded. But he had already hung up the phone. Then, his phone buzzed with a message from the Hunters Association app. It explained how everything had gone down. Mostly the alerts from the Hunter Association were about A-rank or S-rank dungeons, or when a dungeon broke. But today was different. Jin-Woo read the message and quickly checked the association's website. Sure enough, his name was already listed as an S-rank hunter. The ink on his license wasn't even dry yet. There he was, Jin-Woo Sung, Song rank, mage class. It matched exactly what was on his hunter's license. Why can't they be this fast with everything? Jin-Woo muttered to himself. He shoved his phone into his pocket and looked up. Mr. Sung, counter reporter called out. Are you the same Jin-Woo Sung, who used to work for the association as an E-rank hunter? You're one of those super rare reawakened beings. How does it feel? Another reporter asked, trying to get him on camera for just a few more seconds. The reporters tried super hard to keep Jin-Woo talking, or at least get his face on TV a little longer. Jin-Woo wasn't thrilled about all this attention. I need to get out of here, he thought. He doubted anyone would move, even if he asked nicely. He raised an eyebrow, wondering if it was time to call in his shadow soldiers to clear a path. Over here, Hunter Sung. Look this way. And Hunter Sung. The whole country is watching. Give us a smile. As cameras closed in, Jin-Woo quickly thought about summoning Tank or Fang to help him out. Behind him, Jongin noticed Jin-Woo was stuck, surrounded by the swarm of reporters. Jongin walked up to President Baek with a smirk. Looks like my new hunter is struggling because of all this attention, he said, trying to sound casual. President Baek raised an eyebrow. Who says Hunter Sung is your new hunter? Jongin shrugged. It's just a joke. Can't you take a joke? They locked eyes again, staring each other down. Jongin blinked first, breaking the silence with a sigh. Anyway, keeping Sung Jin-Woo here any longer is just giving other guilds a chance to snatch him, President Baek said. He nodded in agreement. Taeju Lim, the leader of the Reapers Guild, was already there, because of Min-sung, and the other two big guilds would be desperate to reach Jin-Woo. Baek glanced at the reporters. Hey, so here's what I'm thinking, Jongin said with a grin. Why don't we walk Hunter Sung home before others catch on? You know how it is when there's blood in the water. Everyone wants a piece. He glanced at Yoon-ho, who raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. Plus, this gives us a chance to chat him up. Jongin continued. We need to make sure he doesn't get poached by our rivals. The guy's got skills, but even superheroes need backup sometimes. Jin-Woo might be strong, but without a guild, tackling the tough dungeons would be impossible. If they played their cards right, Jin-Woo could end up joining either White Tiger or the Hunters. Alright, Yoon-ho said after a moment, nodding. Not a bad plan. Jongin smirked, confident in his team's strengths. This was going to work out just fine. White Tiger wasn't the biggest guild like the Hunters, but they had tons of room to grow. Plus manager An and Jin-Woo had known each other for ages. He was sure his guild had a stronger connection with Jin-Woo than others did. Even though there was a truce now, they still eyed each other warily as they approached him. President Baek didn't waste any time calling out to Jin-Woo right away. Hunter Sung, Jin-Woo said as he turned around to face him. Yes? Jongin felt a bit annoyed that Yoonho had stepped forward first, but he decided not to say anything to keep things peaceful. President Baek gave his biggest friendliest smile and said, "Looks like you're getting mobbed by reporters. Why don't you come with us? We'll make sure you get home safely. We're total pros at handling stuff like this." His words were a bit over the top, but they weren't just empty talk. After all, both guild masters had dealt with similar situations when they were surangs, and running big guilds had taught them how to manage all the fuss. Jongin chimed in, "Yes, come along with us please." "Hey, we need to talk about something on the way," one of them said. Jin-Woo smiled politely, but shook his head. "No thanks," he said, pulling up his sweatshirt hood. "I've got somewhere I need to be."
What? Jongin burst out. How do you think you're getting past all these reporters?
But before Jongin could finish, Jin-Woo sprang into action. With a quick leap, he soared several feet over the crowd of reporters and landed neatly on the other side. The reporters stared in shock. What, just...
One of them trailed off.
Before they could react, Jin-Woo had already vanished into the bustling street crowd. Jongin stood there speechless, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. Even an S-rank person like Jongin hardly had any time to react. So for the reporters who were just ordinary people, it was no contest. Jongin couldn't help but laugh. Jin-Woo was just promoted to S-rank, yet here he was, acting like Superman. As a mage hunter, Jin-Woo had some serious super strength. Jongin, being a mage himself, felt a little jealous of that power. So then what was the reaction of a brawler? Just now Jongin turned to talk about what they'd just seen with Yoonho, but jumped back in surprise at what he saw. Your eyes. He was so shocked that he forgot to call President back by his proper title. "Oh, sorry about that," Yoonho said, quickly covering his eyes with one hand and turning away. After a moment, Jin-Woo opened his eyes again, and they were no longer those of a beast but back to normal. He was still shaken though. How was that possible? His hands were trembling. When Jin-Woo had focused his energy to jump earlier, for just a split second, his hidden magic power slipped out. Usually even top-tier hunters wouldn't notice something like this, but President Baek's ability, the eyes of a beast, picked up on it instantly. He could sense how strong Jin-Woo truly was, and wow, he was powerful. Baek had already known Jin-Woo was strong, but this was on another level entirely. Hold on a second. Yoonho had accidentally turned on his ears of a beast during an earlier run-in with Jin-Woo at the Red Gate. That meant he already had a good idea of how strong Jin-Woo was back then. And let's just say Jin-Woo was really as strong, so much so that Yoonho didn't think he could win a fight against him without losing an arm or two. And that's when things got interesting. Jin-Woo was the kind of opponent Yoonho couldn't beat without making some big sacrifices, but something felt different about Jin-Woo's magic now. The power Yoonho sensed this time was way more powerful than what he'd felt before. It seemed like Jin-Woo had gotten stronger, much stronger. And this change must have happened a while back. How did his powers get stronger? A crazy thought crossed his mind. Was he actually getting more powerful? Maybe instead of going through a second awakening, he just trained really hard. He was about to figure it out. When, "Hey, President Baek, are you okay? You look kinda off," Jongin asked worriedly. Yoonho scrubbed his face with both hands and shook his head hard. "I'm fine now," Jin-Woo said, shaking off the dizziness. Yoonho didn't seem convinced. "You're still young," he said. "You need to take better care of yourself." But Jin-Woo wasn't even listening. His eyes were fixed on where Jongin had disappeared. She's way beyond a normal S-rank hunter. Jin-Woo thought, his mind racing. If he can get even stronger, the idea sent a shiver down his spine. Taxi. Jin-Woo darted between reporters and hopped into a cab on a quiet side street. He held his S-rank license tightly in his hand, grinning from ear to ear. Leveling up and raiding dungeons were cool, but right now, nothing mattered more than helping his mom. He thought about the elixir of life. He wasn't sure if it would really work, but even if there was a tiny chance like 1 in 1,000 or 10,000, he had to try. Jin-Woo made up his mind. He'd clear Demon's Castle as fast as possible, and get all the ingredients. Time to move. Jin-Woo needed a special item to keep him safe from the heat inside. He leaned forward and told the taxi driver, "Take me to the Hunter's Auction House of Korea." The driver glanced in the rearview mirror with a curious smile. Got something valuable to sell. I heard they only deal with items worth millions. Jin-Woo just gave a quick tight smile. Then he gulped. His silence made the driver fidget nervously. Since his passenger was heading to an auction house, he must be a hunter. Hunters are super strong, but also really quirky. You have to watch out when dealing with them. The guy didn't seem problematic, but better safe than sorry. Jin-Woo's vibe told the driver to keep quiet, making the taxi silent inside. Jin-Woo hopped online to see what was up. Social media, blogs and news sites were exploding about the new S-rank hunter. Just that morning Min Sung Lee had been the biggest topic online, but now his name wasn't even in the top 10. Jin-Woo teased in surprise. He figured people would be curious about him, but he didn't expect this big of a deal. Only 10 rank hunters had ever shown up in Korea. One was dead, and another was overseas, so that left just 8 others in the country. With such a small number, it's no surprise he was all over the news. But here's the weird part. Why wasn't Hain, the 9th S-rank hunter, getting the same attention? Maybe he'd finally get a break from all the chaos since the media wasn't making a big deal about him. He dug into it and found out she'd asked the association to keep her information secret after she was confirmed as an S-rank. If Jin-Woo had done the same, the media and guilds wouldn't have found out about him. Why hadn't President Go told Jin-Woo about this option? Oh right, Jin-Woo remembered something President Go had asked while they were walking to the evaluation room together. Do you have a specific guild in mind? Not yet. Had that been why he'd asked? President Go might not have mentioned it, so guilds could access him. Well, then, Jin-Woo sent in an online application to have his information classified, and then called the auction house. Click. This is the Hunter's Auction House of Korea. I'd like to get an artifact appraised. I'm already on my way, if that's okay. Of course, sir. What kind of cool item do you want us to check out? It's a sphere that makes magic stronger. Whoa, so it's a magic boosting orb. You must already know what it does if you're here asking about it. Yeah, I've had it looked at before, but those places weren't super trustworthy. I want a proper auction house. Appraisal this time. Haha, no big deal, right? You've definitely come to the right place. We're known for being the absolute best at what we do. There was a moment of silence on the other end, as someone jotted down some notes. Okay. So how much does this thing boost magic based on your last check? It's 100% stronger. There was another moment of silence. I'm sorry, sir. But are you a hunter? Yes. We'll need some details from you to make this official. May I have your rank and name, please? Jin-Woo's lips curled into a sly grin. He had expected this question all along. If he'd tried to pass himself off as an E-rank hunter, would they have even given him the time of day? That's exactly why he went through the trouble of getting re-evaluated. With a calm, confident tone he replied, S-rank. Jin-Woo Sung arrived at the auction house. The building wasn't super tall, only a few stories high, but it stretched out wide, looking more like a museum or an art gallery than a regular business. The parking lot was sprawling, with enough space to handle big events that could bring in hundreds or even thousands of guests. You could tell Hunter's auction house raked in big bucks just from fees alone. As Jin-Woo stepped out of the taxi and walked toward the entrance, a man dressed all fancy hurried over to him. Are you Hunter Jin-Woo Sung? He asked. Jin-Woo nodded. Yes, that's me. The man's eyes widened in surprise as he took in Jin-Woo's appearance. Then, remembering himself, he snapped back to attention and greeted Jin-Woo with a cheerful smile. Jung-gi Kim from the appraisal team had just hung up the phone after talking to Jin-Woo. As he walked Jin-Woo to the appraisal room, a million thoughts raced through his mind. He couldn't believe it. This was the same top hunter who had mysteriously vanished right in front of all those reporters. At first, Jung-gi thought someone was pulling a prank on him when Jin-Woo called. But here they were, walking together like it was no big deal. Jin-Woo gave a quick nod as he followed, his expression calm and serious. First off, the item's effect sounded totally unbelievable. Second, he was saying he was this new S-rank hunter. They just announced today. Man, I almost lost it at an S-rank hunter. My blood almost froze when the Hunters Association checked Jin-Woo's phone number. I was super relieved. I followed all the rules and stayed polite. Then they just announced that Hunter Jin-Woo Sung is now an S-rank after moving all the way up from E thanks to a reawakening. Screens all around the auction house kept showing Jin-Woo's face. He pulled his hood down even more, clearly annoyed by all the attention. Jung-gi, sitting next to him, was beaming with pride, even though it wasn't him on TV. For a second, Jung-gi thought about asking Jin-Woo for a selfie, then he shook his head and let it go. If Jung-gi weren't on the clock, he'd totally ask for a selfie or a signature, but you can't just bother someone in the middle of important business for that kind of thing. He had to stay focused and professional. Wait, are we already here? Jung-gi snapped out of his daydream as they stepped into the appraisal room. He looked disappointed. This way, he said. They headed into a huge room where the appraisal team manager and the head appraiser were waiting. These two had even skipped lunch to meet Jin-Woo. The manager's eyes widened in surprise when he saw the S-rank hunter walk in. It's really him, the guy from the news. The head appraiser fidgeted nervously, trying to calm himself down. He couldn't stop wondering about the magic amplification sphere. Is it really? Wait. Could it really be? Just because someone was real, doesn't mean their stuff has to be. The head appraiser gripped his pen tightly, reminding himself of this over and over to stay calm. Even the best experts in the world, pouring all their skill and effort into making a super powerful magic booster artifact, with top materials, would still only get something that works half as well as you'd hope. This project would take years to get everything ready, and it would involve a lot of people. Mage hunters from all over the world would jump at the chance to get their hands on such an artifact, so its absence isn't because nobody wants it. In fact, even in Korea, Jang Jin-chai, known as the ultimate hunter, is rumored to be searching for a magic power booster that can increase someone's strength by more than 50%. Can you imagine having something that powerful? Then came a brand new S-rank hunter claiming to have a magic sphere that could boost magic by 100%. Ridiculous. The whole thing sounded crazy enough to make them want to toss Jin-Woo out on the street, if it weren't for his rank. After all, you don't turn away an S-rank hunter, no matter how wild their story sounds. Even if this was all a big scam, someone like him could be super important as a client for years to come. What do we have to lose? The head appraiser muttered, though he sounded half suspicious and half hopeful. He looked at Jin-Woo and said, "Could you, show us the item?" Jung-gi and the manager were practically bursting with curiosity as they waited for Jin-Woo's response.
Sure, Jin-Woo said casually.
He acted like he was pulling something out of his pocket, but really, he was summoning the sphere of avarice from his inventory. The head appraiser adjusted his glasses. The sphere was a stunning deep red color. It was the kind of thing that made people stop and stare. Jung-gi and the manager let out quiet.
Wow's.
The head appraiser said, tilting his head. He fiddled with his glasses nervously. This isn't made from an essence or a mana stone, is it? Jin-Woo shook his head. Nope. The head appraiser nodded like he knew all along. After 7 years in this job, he could tell these things. He'd seen lots of cool stuff in his job as an appraiser, but nothing could have prepared him for this. A red sphere. Usually spheres were clear blue, and the better ones turned darker, almost black, but a red one. The head appraiser picked it up, curious. As soon as he held it, something felt off. He got chills because of the weird energy coming from it. It can't be. Amazed, he kept examining it closely.